kind of.
Too cool. Are they
Well,
distracting you?
I I have so many frames. We just have new lens put in, right?
Hmm.
I've had a couple of frames that I've had new prescriptions put in them, but these are my progressive lenses, my no line progressives. And so today I thought my keyboard was moving. I thought it was like not level. So I was pushing it. I was like, oh no, that's just me looking at the wrong, looking down incorrectly. But yeah, I was
No,
like,
that
is
that
this
totally is what happens. It's quite disorienting.
yes. I was like, what
Agreed.
the what? I was like, what's going on? But I'm ready. Gwendolyn is ready now. So there's so much going on. So
Yeah.
much going on. And you have to pace yourself. Otherwise, you could kind of go there. But we want to open up this episode with a quick clip from Brian Tyler Cohen, which I appreciate Brian's I'll say reporting. Yeah, it's reporting. It's reporting. I'll say reporting. So let me get him up here and we will take a listen. We'll take a gander.
I'm sorry, am I losing my mind? Listen to this.
Pete Hegseth has welcomed Doge to come into the military. We have to start in the Pentagon. We need to make a Trigon, 3 sides instead of 5 sides in the Pentagon. It is way too big.
A Trigon? Does he mean a triangle? Look, I'm not saying that we have to elect nuclear physicists, but please, for the love of God, stop electing abject morons. Please. Dear God. I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. Now I know we talked about meritocracy. Did we not?
Yes, we did.
We talked about meritocracy. We talked about how, it doesn't take much.
Mhm.
If you are of the right gender, complexion, and what have you, that you can get a job. Now, granted, he's elected, so that's I don't even know what that says. But I'm like, Alabama. Okay. Trigons. I'm gonna have a shirt said, make the world a trigon.
I sort of like the word though, I'll be honest. I'm like, that's kind of a cool word. No, I don't understand what 5 it doesn't matter. Anyhow.
We want to dive right into this. We're gonna play this intro and get right into it. So we're talking about what's in the news. That is what we were talking about. And so, Aicila, I'm going to let you start us off with what our thoughts of today's topic are.
So I've been obsessed with this book that called Humankind. And there's a couple of things that when we were talking ahead of time and just thinking about the episode that felt like it applied. So I'm going to share, this is an older story. This person didn't invent this story. And I think it frames a little bit of what we're talking about, which is, an old man says to his grandson, there's a fight going on inside me. It's a terrible fight between 2 wolves. One is evil, angry, greedy, jealous, arrogant, and cowardly. The other is good, peaceful, loving, modest, generous, honest, and trustworthy. These 2 wolves are also fighting within you and inside every other person as well. After a moment, the boy asks, which wolf will win? And the old man smiles and replies, the one you feed. And I feel like that's so much of what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
Like, what are we feeding? And how are we feeding it? And then the other quote is about the news. There's a lot of studies that he positions. I'm not going to read the whole one for this, but people can pause if they want to. And he says, he talks about, like, imagine if a new drug came on the market and they conclude that the drug causes misperception of risk, anxiety, lower mood levels, learned helplessness, contempt, and hostility towards others, and desensitization. And, he's asked the question then, what would we allow it to be for our children? How prolific would we allow it to be? And then at the end of the paragraph, he says, that's the news. They've shown that's what the news does to us. And so I feel like maybe it feeds the other wolf.
I do know for myself, at least a good few years ago. So we're not talking like 2, we're talking like maybe 5, 6. We stopped watching the news. Like once you recognize what it does and how it feeds on the fear.
Yeah.
Everything is, this is happening and that's happening. It's like, pause. There are some good things in there, but a good chunk of it is the fear. And then they repeat it like all day. There was a train wreck on 45 and so, and we're now continuing with the train wreck coverage. And hey, it's like, but it's been on for 8 hours.
And it's not accurate.
Hours.
It's frequently not accurate. Like, that's the other part is I think being informed is good. I think understanding what's going on in the world has important, and especially in your community is a very important thing. And consistently, whether my dad lives in super tiny rural Utah, and he said that they did some report on the water situation there. And he's like, it's totally inaccurate. And I feel like anytime you ask someone on the ground what's happening, they'll tell you the way the news talks about it and what's actually happening do not match. So it's not news. It's fictionalized. It's fictional, like sensationalized drama being presented as facts. And that's honestly worse. I'd rather people watch a violent movie than watch the news and think it's real and get all riled up. And the caveat, there are some pretty awful things happening right now, and really checking your sources. That's why I constantly am on about Snopes.com and Verity. Get sources that you can, that aren't behind a paywall as much as possible, that give you actual fact-based news, because the constant doom scrolling and hyping us up, that's not for us. That doesn't serve our needs. That someone benefits from it, but it's not us.
Well, that's perfect timing, because we are going to talk about some updates from what is in the news. All right, so here's our first one. This is the Army deleting online content related to women, minorities, using keywords like respect and dignity. So, oh man, when I tell you this, I say it again. So, we're a military family. And so it kind of, I shouldn't say kind of, it does touch me.
Yeah.
It says justice, dignity, respect. These words are now considered red flags by the Army, as it does a wide-ranging scrub of the massive amount of digital content the service has created online over the years, a purge that is leading to the removal of images and videos featuring women and minority soldiers from digital platforms. Now, it's not just the Army. This is every single branch has to update. I shouldn't say update. They call it updating. They are removing images, removing certain words. They are removing all of those things, right? That's every single one. And I just said to myself, how is this supposed to work?
Yeah.
Like, you're trying to, if you will, whitewash what has happened, what will be happening. They've been directed to take down online content that includes race, gender, affirmative action, Black History Month, Women's History Month. It's concerning. As one photographer said, I guess I'm just going to stop taking pictures of Black people and women because I don't know what to do with that. They're taking down culture, racism, justice, people first, which is an Army initiative. They're removing all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get to this part. Let me get to the part that I really want to talk about. Let's see if I can advance this here. Because what was interesting to me when they were reevaluating where they're doing their recruiting at this time, they didn't go to the Black engineers event that we talked about before. They didn't go to that. And they also are not going to a all-girls preparatory school as well, where they used to do annual outreach events. But here's the deal. The review comes amid a decline in male eligibility and interest in service, partly due to dwindling test scores. Meanwhile, recent recruiting wins have been largely bolstered by women, and Black Americans make up nearly 1/4 of enlistment in recent years, while being only 14% of the general population. Now, let me tell you really quick about ASFAB. Now, I took it, the Armed Services something test, whatever it is. Yeah, I took it. I scored extremely well, but my attitude is bad. I got a funky attitude. So there's no way that I can go into the military. Can I follow orders? I don't know. I know what I can do. I choose not to do such things.
Like, don't put yourself in a position where you get in trouble, like big trouble for it. That makes sense.
Don't do that. But it's not surprising that there are a lot of women who test very well. We know there's a number of women who are in college now compared to their male counterparts of the same age.
Yeah.
But here you have an administration who wants to kick out all the women and all the persons with any inkling of melanin, and they want to ostracize those who are trans because you're trying to build, I assume, this all white male armed services, but they don't even want to serve.
Yeah.
They don't even want to serve, and their test scores won't allow them to be of service.
Or they're going to lower the test scores next because they have to do affirmative action for white men. But they don't want to call it that.
You know what, Aicila, I didn't even think about that.
I mean,
not even consider. So, I mean, if
they can't get in, obviously the test is just too hard.
Yeah.
Obviously it's rigged, right?
Obviously it's rigged. You know, we were just saying the other week when it comes to people defining those of confidence and what do they say, respect and all this other stuff, and they immediately think, oh, this is the white guy defines all that. I don't know who told you that.
Yep.
Don't know who told you. When you rig the playing field for only certain people to play, then you can't help but have the same kind of winner. When you open that playing field, all of a sudden you're like, well, I don't understand why Susie Q is like top of the line. Because Susie Q is better than you, kid. It's okay. It's okay. Everybody has their genius. Yeah. Everybody got their genius. I mean, this just wasn't yours, right? Mm-hmm. But it's one of those where it's so blatant and so brazen that you talk about everything being of merit. You can't be of more merit than in the military because you have to earn those stars and stripes. You have to earn every single something on your chest, right? So what, the 4-star general who was fired and they want to replace him with a retired 3-star person is like, yeah. Now, I tutored math. Even if I didn't tutor math, I know that 4 is greater than 3. 4 stars, it's greater than 3 stars. So it's not about merit. It's
about loyalty. Right now, their focus is, are you loyal to our administration? And do we perceive you as being either disloyal or, not quote unquote of merit because you don't meet this other standard?
Yes.
And it's insidious because it plays on some some propaganda that's been going on for a while. So they don't have to quite say it right out. And that makes it harder because when people hear stuff like that right out, they do kind of, even if they have their own prejudices, they'll be like, yeah, no, that's not okay. Most people, but they don't have to say it right out. And so then it's a lot more insidious. And I will say that the other thing, I'm going to be referencing this book, but for a while, probably the other thing is people have to resist every act of compliance, every act of supporting these behaviors. Like, I'm kind of frustrated that the military is just going along with it, because if they would resist it, if every single person in the military would say, hey, that's actually not how this works.
Yeah.
Like, and there was a letter from several retired, I want to say high level 5-star general types who expressed extreme concern about what's happening.
Yes.
And also they're very careful not to have political opinions publicly, which I think is really appropriate because we don't want to trade one problem for another problem. And we're in a pretty tumultuous time right now. And every act of compliance, every time we don't stand up for our community and for our family and for honestly just our colleagues and say, actually, that's not okay. I don't want my colleagues to be erased. I don't want you to act like women and Black people and people of color and queer people serving isn't equally valuable. If we don't, they have to do that, or that they are the thing that can stop it.
So because the husband and again other family members are in the armed forces, I'm in a couple of those Facebook groups, and there have been a lot of comments about, hey guys, remember what your oath is. Your oath is to the Constitution. It's not to just whatever administration is currently in the House.
Yep.
So I found myself asking, how far will it go before someone says, okay, enough is enough? Because is it going to have to be you having to like trample over American citizens that you say, okay, now we've gone too far? Because you're thinking, oh, well, it's just a website. Oh, we're not recruiting here. You can still apply. But I am not actively recruiting at an all-girl preparatory school. I'm not actively recruiting Black engineers.
Well, would you want to apply? Like it makes it feel like that it's going to be a pretty hostile environment.
Toxic. Well, here's my thought.
Concerning to me.
And this is why I say, and I mean this in all seriousness, it does not go without thought how blessed I and others are that there is somebody willing to put their life on the line for me to enjoy this current freedom that I have to sit in this room, be on this camera and say what I want to say. Somebody's fighting for that every single day.
Yeah.
Somebody's on the wall. And I know like right now they are attempting to ostracize and separate those who are trans in the military.
They are.
And I thought to myself, I'm reading some of these comments and it's just, again, I believe if you really feel the way you feel, put your bitch ass out there, say what you got to say, and then versus hide behind some anonymous name or some fake picture. Like say with your chest if you really believe it. But you want to talk about, oh, we're making our military strong again and manly again. Like, I don't know what that's about, because somebody who doesn't look like you, who has different body parts, who has a different culture or religious belief is on the wall fighting for your dumb ass so that you can write the dumb shit you writing on Facebook.
Yeah.
You should be thanking them.
Right?
You know what I'm saying? Like the last thing I need to know is what somebody's body parts are when there's bullets that have no names, 0 names.
Yeah.
That's not my concern. That's not my concern. Anybody who says I am willing to die for a country who absolutely hates me, why would you be like, yes, take them out? We don't want them. Is that not being a patriot? Is that not it? I just need to know.
When I remembered in 2001 when they kicked all the Farsi speaking people out of the military, and I was like, what is happening right now? Like, why would you do that? That just seems so counterintuitive. And it's a very interesting way of I think trying to be safe, but it's really ignorant because you can't be safe by pretending. Like the only way to be safe is to look reality in the eye and say, we actually don't know anything about someone based on the language they speak or the body they have or the color of their skin. So assuming that they're in the military in a nefarious way or we can't trust them is actually, it's delusional at best. And it means that decisions are not being made from a place of awareness and clarity. And that's I feel like there's a lot of real other things happening in this situation where because it's the trans population is such a small population, bullying them is they can't really fight back. They don't have a lot of political power. A lot of people don't know them. And you have to know someone usually or have some experience with something to get past whatever your innate xenophobia is.
Mhm.
So it creates a really great target, much like the Jewish population in Germany. They were like less than 2% of the population. And so it's very easy to other them. It's very easy to bully and attack them and to create this fear state that then allows you to run rampant over people's rights. And then when they figure out like, oh, wow, that affects me too, it's often too late, which is why it's like you have to go out and resist right now.
Right
This
now.
idea of being siloed, this idea that it'll, maybe if you hunker down, you'll be safe. Yeah, that's not going to happen. If you want to be safe, you need to speak out right now. You
Well,
speak out yesterday, actually, but right now is a great
yeah.
time to start.
A couple of yesterdays.
A couple of yesterdays.
A couple of
And there's
yesterdays.
nothing we can do about what happened yesterday. So,
No.
and that's the other thing too, is people get on this. They're like, oh, I didn't do something, so therefore I can't. And now is the perfect time to start. And where you are is the perfect place to begin. And with what you know is what you start with. And if you feel like you need to know more, ask questions, go look it up. You friggin' email us. We'll happily share resources with you. I'll speak for both of us, even though I don't know if that's true.
You can look. We are in sync, which speaks to our next story. And I said to myself, oh my gosh, I stay in prayer for a reason. This is Iowa governor. Yeah, she signs that bill, in a statement released by her office after the bill was signed. She's the first woman to hold the governor's office. Said the Civil Rights Code blurred the biological line between the sexes and forced Iowa taxpayers to pay for gender reassignment surgeries. She says this bill does accomplish to strengthen protections for women and girls. And I just thought to myself, I don't understand, but it would remove gender identity as a protected class from the state's civil rights law and explicitly define female and male as well as gender, which would be considered a synonym for sex and shall not be considered a synonym. All right. I'm going to say this again. And matter of fact, I'm going to say it. And I'm going to use some different language, Aicila. I don't mind doing it because I don't understand this fascination with another person's gender, unless you're in the closet and you're just jealous that someone else is living out their best life. And I mean that. I mean it to the nth degree. I mean it with every bone in my body. I've never seen so many people who keep saying that they are protecting women and girls and people from not using the same bathroom. If you are transitioning, have transitioned, do you not have the same body parts? I mean, I don't go into the bathroom and saying, hello, do we all have a coochie in here? Just want to make sure. Like, ain't nobody doing that.
I have never once done that, actually. There's not a single time that I've walked into the bathroom and investigated in any way other people's biology. Mostly I was interested in doing my business and leaving. But it's like
I am checking if you're washing your hands. I want to check that.
Yeah, no, that is the thing, right?
I'm checking that. But other than that, like but this whole idea that somebody would go through this just to be around women. Do you know how hard it is to be a woman? Can we just stop that real quick?
Yeah.
Can we just go there? How hard it is to be a woman?
Yeah.
It's not like we have the best thing going for us right now, right? Yeah. In terms of rights. I mean, we're second-class citizens, even if you are a white woman, but you're close to that patriarchy system. You still second class, right? Then you have all these weird things that happen to your body that medically, like we are just now getting into some research for what we have to deal with. And even then they tell you, no, you're not really feeling that. That's not really happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, people are just jumping to go over here because it's like where the party's going down. What?
Yeah.
It's so insane. I'm thinking, what women are they protecting? Who are you protecting?
I mean, no one. They're not protecting anyone, right? And the idea of saying, okay, great, let's say that gender is equivalent to sex. Sure. I have issues with it. And do you realize there's 5 different biological definitions of sex for humans? 5. So if we're going to go from, if we can't have gender identity and non-binary and trans people, which is only right now 3 options, if we're going to go to biological, then we would be at least at 5. And that's the thing, is they're not going to do that, because they don't really mean it. They don't really mean that they want it to be equivalent to your biological nature or your sex. What they mean is, we don't like that you are breaking free of the control as a society, men and women, because while absolutely some men have, like, you know, they're not doing as well, the reality is that this transformation allows men to be more engaged with themselves in their humanness. They don't have to try and always be tough, and they can get out of that testosterone like toxicity that is presented as maleness and actually show up as whole and complete people without being ashamed of it. How many men I've known in life who really didn't know how to be friends with other men because they felt they were emotional and that other men wouldn't be willing to, like, acknowledge and connect to that. And it's so interesting to me. And I'm like, how would I do anything with my girlfriends? Like, I have my female friends are a big part of my life. And I can't imagine only having, like, male friends. That would be so limiting. And at any rate, like, so many men, they're afraid of other men the way women are afraid of other men.
Yeah,
And it's
girl.
thing.
That's a show by itself. I mean,
Right?
like, let's be honest. You know what? We got the time today. We got the damn time today. When you think about protecting women, protecting girls, it's not from somebody who's trans. It sure as hell ain't a fucking drag queen.
No.
Because we have seen what heterosexual men do. We have seen it. We have seen the exploitation in the church. We have seen the cat calls on the street. We have seen when a guy doesn't get the response he wants, that all of a sudden it turns deadly.
Yeah.
We have seen some really disgusting behavior. But I should be concerned about the drag queen reading to the kindergarten class.
Yeah.
Or the person who's trans.
We talked about this. I think we mentioned this. It's still legal in states to claim gay or trans panic if you kill someone. Yeah, if you hurt, yeah, it's a legal defense. They overturned gay panic in several states, maybe the country, but they did not overturn trans panic. And that's an actual legal thing that people have used as a defense for violence against people because they got so freaked out. And it to me, it points to that, what you were talking about, that insecurity, that fear of themselves. And to me, that's what they're so afraid of. They're afraid of men actually learning how to sit in their own discomfort, to accept themselves as whole beings with actual feelings. Because if we have that society, then we don't need as many police or, suddenly everything changes when people are more able to simply be themselves and not be in this weird, violent competition over who's the most whatever. Anyhow.
Your point about the freedom it sticks, because I believe when there are people who constantly talk about a particular topic, it's like being back in junior high, elementary school, high school, when you would find a way to bring up someone's name that you liked. You're like, and I saw Jimmy today, and oh, did you see what Jimmy did? And it's like, okay, so you like Jimmy because you keep bringing him up. Like, what's the deal? You're finding ways to talk about something that doesn't exist unless, and I go back to the freedom part, you wish you could be so free to be the person who you really are inside, but you don't want to give up the comforts of your current social circle, who probably would not accept you if you truly were the person you are on the inside. So you do stuff. You hang out in the closet. Yep. You decide to go in back corners and go on apps and what have you. You find someone, but then to show that you are just upset and miserable, you go all out to pass legislation and do other things to hurt those who are living in their freedom.
Yep. Well, and the thing is, like, over and over again, and there are atrocities, obviously people are terrible, and a lot of times when people talk to their friends about who they are, their friends are like, oh, dude, that's cool. Like there are so many people that would be fine. And they're putting on a face for each other. Like, oh yeah, I don't like that either, or whatever. Like and that's the thing, is we forget that we have the ability to influence and change culture instead of pushing it down, hurting ourselves so much that we then go and enact our self-mutilation on others by passing, like you said, legislation or judgment. And it's heartbreaking, inexcusable for sure, and also heartbreaking.
It's a level of self-hatred in there.
Yeah.
Self-loathing. I should say loathing.
Yeah.
It's in there. I mean, I don't want to talk about these preachers because they don't have that much time today. We don't have that much time today, Aicila. We don't have that much time. But I will say, in this article, the governor was saying that we recognize that everybody is God's children and we respect and love everyone. But if that's the case, you would not create legislation that hurts people.
Yep.
You can't say that you love me and then do things that are created to hurt me. What kind of relationship is that?
Yeah.
Who do you think you're fooling?
Well, and it's that, did you see there was the Michigan legislative body, there was a woman presenting and she called the chairperson Ms. Chairwoman, and the chairperson said, excuse me, I'm chairman. And she said, well, you just passed legislation that said you can't tell me which pronouns to use. You can't tell me what your preferred pronouns are. And I just was like, that's brilliant.
Brilliant.
I feel like we need to do more of that, honestly, because I feel like people aren't getting it. It's not that big of a deal. And it's not a hard thing for you to change. And it seems it's such a weird thing to care about, honestly. But it was really hilarious because she's like, no, I Ms. Chairwoman, you just passed legislation. You cannot dictate to me what your preferred pronouns are. Anyhow,
so we're not doing it.
So I'm not doing it.
I mean, I go back to this again. I'm in Texas. I get up, I go out, I do my thing. I go shopping. We go here, we go there. Not once am I ever saying, now I wonder if somebody in here is not who they say they are. Like, it's never a thought. It's never. My deal is, how much are eggs today? And why did this person park next to me when I'm out in the goddamn boonies? I'm out here for a reason. All these parking spots, and you park out here next to me. That's my concern.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about anything else. It's like, what? You know what? We know how it goes. You pick somebody to be the person, to be the scapegoat, the lamb that's going to be sacrificed, and that's where you start.
It's where you start, and it goes for, and it's where it keeps going.
And it keeps going. It doesn't stop there. It keeps going. You chip away all the rights of this one particular group, and then you're like, well, now that that's over, who are we going to tackle next? Yes, trust me, you are the next. If it happens to one, it happens to every single one of us.
You're somewhere on the list, and they, they were ramping up, and now that they have license, and it's I know people who have had their gender marker changed on official documents, just without their, say so, and they had it officially changed, and then it has been reverted back. And I you see it on, online and in the news, and I believe it, of course. And also the fact that it's happening so fast tells me there were people in place already who were planning this. They were planning to take away the rights and the respect of our citizens, and that's even worse to me, because it tells me that this is going to get worse before it gets better.
These are the same folks who were trying to pass that sanctimony of marriage law here. Ooh, they have been waiting on the sideline. Is it my turn, coach? Is it my turn? Is my turn to get in? Yeah.
Well, and the voting thing that says that you have to have your birth certificate has to match your driver's license, or you have to have a passport. Not everybody can afford a passport. Nor does everybody need one.
Yeah.
And it's another way to create a national, registry, essentially.
Yes.
And once again, it's very concerning that there's a move towards that. And I do understand the people that, not necessarily right now, but where people were like, oh, that's because there's always people who are pushing for things to be fundamentalist. There's always the reason, and this is another rant I have, and I'll be very short on it, which is that Trump's not the issue. There's been plenty of people that have tried to do what he's doing, and they weren't successful because our society and our communities, even when they were like, I don't get that, we're like, no, we're not doing that. It's all the people supporting him, all the people complying in advance, all the people who are saying, oh, it's not that bad yet because it hasn't affected you. That's what's making this possible.
Yes.
It's not him. He's a non-figure, like he's a figurehead. He's being used.
He's the current puppet.
And if you aren't doing anything you can, and I'm just saying one thing, then you're part of it.
Yeah, there's a certain level of complacency in America that is just beyond words. I recognize there's a group of people, a generation of people who were born into a certain way of life. So they've never had to struggle. They have no idea what that looks like because they've never had anyone ever attempt to take it or attempt to block it. They've never had it. They have always had. Then there's the rest of us who have come out between the two, right? A little bit of this, a little bit of that. And then there's those who were like enslaved and then came out of. So we have seen all of it. We have seen this story before. We know this playbook. We know exactly what's about to happen. So we don't get up in arms where people who were new to it are like, well, this seems a little odd, or it's so far-fetched, and that's just fear-mongering. They're still in this sort of kind of like with grief. They're in disbelief. It could never happen here. So they go back to their latte and everything else, putting on their headphones, living in La La Land. Because you're thinking, well, everything looks normal. I don't see anything happening here. Like, what are you talking about? There are things happening. They're happening. They're happening in your capital. They're happening with the bills being presented, right? Being pushed through. That if you don't get your head out of the clouds, out of the sand, and start paying attention, before you know it, whatever you had become accustomed to having in terms of rights, well, they're going to be gone.
Yeah.
They're not going to exist. And it doesn't take much to do it. We see that. Doesn't take much to do it.
Yep. People who've legally changed their gender just had that reversed. Like, that's not right.
No.
How can anyone, I mean, that's theoretically, of course, it's not right. And also, that's not due process. Like, what's this whole story, right? And yes, I'm aware that that's always been a little problematic, and the brazen disregard for even pretending that there's a process means that it's gonna get worse. Like, beat that drum a little bit more. I'm not here to be a downer, though. I did start you with the whole like.
No, I don't believe.
Feed the good wolf.
We say this every time. This is not about being down. One of the other issues beyond Americans being complacent, they put the car in cruise control. There were other people, who didn't have civil rights, fought for civil rights, and other people benefited from it. So they didn't have to fight.
Yeah.
They've never had to fight. What was that from Jurassic Park? Hold up, Aicila, because I like a good movie quote.
I do.
When those scientists went in there finagling with the DNA and whatnot, they just did it. Didn't ask if they should do it because they didn't have to work for that work. They just figured, let me see if I can. They have no respect for it because they didn't have to fight for it. So you don't think about these civil rights and these conversations as including you because you've never had to fight for it. Because someone else has always fought for it. Well, that time has changed. We're in a different place now, where if you don't say something, they are going to just march right over you. Literally go. Now, there are people who are in a cult mindset. I've never seen people who just vote against their best interests. I don't understand that shit at all. Like,
Mhm.
I just don't understand. You talk about reducing fraud and waste, yet you're giving this one guy billions of dollars in contracts. Why not just cancel that shit? Because wouldn't that save us some money?
But would
I'm
it save us
sorry.
right
Like,
money? It's much better that we make sure that our elderly and our poor children don't have health care and food. He's a poor billionaire who doesn't have enough military contracts.
right? Because there's no conflict of interest there.
Mm-mm.
Yes, there's tons of fraud and tons of waste. What kind of waste? Well, I've heard stories of it. I don't have any proof, but I've heard stories of it. How do you guys take stuff on face value? Like, in what world does that work? Clearly, it works here because we were on cruise control. And as long as you repeat something, I used to say in class, repetition creates recognition. It also
Mm.
makes you believe something whether or not you see it.
Yep.
You just keep repeating it and repeating it and repeating it. And because you hear it all the time, you're like, well, it must be true. It's gotta, what waste are you talking about? The guy
Yep.
who's getting the diapers out of the park because somebody who is clearly raising some barn left a baby's diaper on the side of the road. That guy, that's waste because he's picking up the waste so that you can have a clean park, or at least he or she was. They're out of a job now because we don't need clean parks. Who needs clean parks?
Well, and fire prevention? Like I can't even. There's a meme that went around and it was Smokey the Bear, and it's like, only you can prevent fire prevention or fire forest fires because they fired everybody who's paid to do it. Like,
Oh, that's awesome.
that is 100% accurate.
Yes.
And we have more fires now than we had. It's just what it's
We
not
have to.
common sense. It's just not common sense, which is
It's
it's hard for me because I did grow up around conservatives who were common sense people, and I'm friends with a lot of them, and they are actually not super supportive of Trump for understandable reasons. And but it's tricky for me because I feel like I've had to, in the last 6 years, really separate myself from my nostalgia around that. Because I really did sort of assume, like, oh, okay, this stuff isn't common sense and it's kind of egregious. So obviously, like, that's not what they intended, and they're going to put a stop to it. Because those were the conservatives that I grew up with. They had principles. They stood for what they meant. They took, they stood up even when it cost them something. Like, were they perfect? Absolutely not. There's no perfection, but there was a lot more moral fiber than I see right now. And that, to me, has actually been even though I wasn't in the conservative camp per se, I still had a lot of respect for what I considered to be the integrity of the differences we had. And now I'm like, oh, actually they've gone in a whole new direction, and I don't recognize that. Those aren't my people anymore.
I mean, well, we'll have to investigate. I mean, I would like to investigate, and I don't have anything scientific beyond observing human behavior, but this fascination, I talked about it with wanting to be rich or the gagillionaire, right?
Mhm.
Like, there's this fascination that, ooh, that could be me too. And if I could just be part of that club, that I could get. It's like, what's wrong with you, man? Like, what's wrong? What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
We are willing to sell our soul to the devil at the highest cost. No decorum, no backbone, no character, no integrity, none of the things that were seen in years past in regards to, I don't agree with you, but I can meet you in the middle. I mean, it is blatant stuff happening.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, were we not seeing this? Like, how are we not seeing this? And then for people to want to normalize it, I was
Yep.
like, I don't know what drugs y'all are smoking. Must be some good shit. Gotta be. Because I just, but since we're talking about some of that foolishness, let me bring up this next story. Because it's about our friends. There's nothing like creating chaos with people. Canada's in the news. Yeah. So the talk of possibly cutting off electricity to the US states that depend on Canadian electricity. Yeah, I don't know.
Wow. I didn't see that one. Wow.
Yeah, there is talk about cutting off the lights, if you will, to there's a number of US states that depend on electricity from Canada. And so the guy says, I don't want to start a tariff war, but we're going to win this war. If they want to try to annihilate Ontario, I would do everything, including cut off their energy, with a smile on my face. I was like, oh, so it impacts New York, Michigan, and Minnesota. He was like, I will cut off the lights and I ain't going to be upset about it. You know, I don't know. I really do. I need to figure out. Now, I'm going to get with you afterwards because I want to figure out how to investigate and research this way of putting what's happening here on somebody else. I mean, I have an idea, so I will say that. But people talk about the immigrants, but we haven't heard about them anymore because now we're on to the trans people, right? But the immigrants who took our jobs, when the fact of the matter is, American companies are so friggin' cheap.
Yeah.
They took the American jobs overseas because they didn't want to pay American workers.
Yeah.
And factories closed. You know, we got the best cotton here. Now, my mama picks cotton.
You're like, my family knows.
Right? I was like, my mom picked cotton in Texas. And yet and still, they took those jobs and bing.
Yep. When they had to pay for labor, even, you know, it's always got to be cheap.
Cheap.
And that's, yeah. No.
But these American workers will swear to the good Lord Almighty on a stack of Bibles that it was that guy. He took my job. No. He didn't take your job. These board of directors, this right here, these shareholders, they took your job because they didn't want to pay people. They took your job overseas. And then when that country got too expensive, they went to this country. It's about exploitation.
Yep.
And now, because even that's getting kind of pricey, let's just roll back child labor laws, shall we? Because don't kids want to work in dangerous places?
Yeah. No, I mean, that's, well, in, like the other part of that, right, is a friend of mine is a nurse and she was saying, you know, she has to really like constantly give when she's on staff, that she, you know, because she's like, if I take a pee break, someone could die. And I said, I'm going to reframe that for you. They're so understaffed because they won't pay for enough people to be there, that if you take a pee break, someone will die. It is not because you have a biological need. It is because they are not staffing things in a way. And does occasionally that have to happen? I'm sure there are times when a crisis happens.
Yes.
And if they staffed it differently and they weren't so damn cheap, then everybody could have a lunch break and a pee break and no one would be at risk of dying. But they use that. They use the fact that you care about your patients, that you don't want anyone to suffer, to exploit you. And it sucks.
So this guy's like, well, I'm gonna put you want to start a fight with your neighbors. Now, back in the day when I was in high school and junior high and elementary school, my cousins and I, we all kind of went to school together. So if you picked on one of us, you picked on all of us. It was a big group of us too. It was a big group. So if you're like, I'm gonna fight you, Gwendolyn, after school, it's like, well, come on, partner, because I got a gang with me. We don't start fights inside the group. That's not what you do. Like what are you doing? You want to cause chaos. Now, I do believe it's all intentional, because if you fire people and you make food and everything else so unaffordable, they're easier to manipulate, right?
Oh, yeah.
They're easier to just give in to the foolishness. And they're like, you know what? What's the point in fighting? What's the point in resisting? Because this isn't like, now for him to think that Canada and Mexico are gonna roll over and be like, yeah, sure, we'll do whatever you want to do. Honestly, and I know this is awful, I probably shouldn't say that loud. I'm gonna say that loud though. I kind of want to see them turn them lights off. I said it. And hear me out, Aicila. What we used to say at my old job when it came to change management, until the pain of remaining the same becomes unbearable, nothing changes.
Yeah. No, someone has to call their bluff.
Someone has to call their bluff. And again, a number of Americans, like we had 1/3 who voted for that guy, another third voted for decency and person who actually know how to holds a conversation, and then another third was just MIA.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't impact me. It does impact you. It does. Even your choice to not vote is a choice,
Yeah.
right? So until this pain becomes unbearable, nothing is going to change here. Because I keep asking myself, where's the line? We're voting with Russia
I
and
know.
North Korea and Iran. You don't now. You're telling people that this guy who wants to just take everything, that this country invaded this country. And there just came out. Well, they started this war. They started it. The hell are you talking about? So where's the line? When is too much? Too much. I kind of feel like they're gonna have to feel some pain to be like, what do you mean there's no electricity here? I don't because you get it from Canada. You get a lot of stuff from your neighbors. We were all in this together. We were all in this together. Now
Well,
this guy,
and that's the thing that I feel like, you know, we talked about this before. Black women have shown up for us as a society and a community and a country over and over again. And it's come from this place of awareness from the outside, obviously, of we're all in this together. And that's the problem, is that the people who have been insulated from the consequences over and over again, they've taken advantage of that. Like, you don't want your community to suffer, so you're going to do a little extra because you're not willing to watch unnecessary pain. You don't want to support that. And that tendency in marginalized and oppressed people, that tendency to say, oh, let's prevent this tragedy, has been exploited by people who are primarily insulated from the consequences of their actions. And I think you're right that there's going to have to be some pain. I just don't think the people who are making these decisions are going to feel the consequences of it. I think it's going to be regular people, and much like the immigrants were blamed for losing their jobs, they're going to blame trans drag queens and women for the electricity going out. They're not going to and I don't even blame them for that. I get that they're being manipulated, and I get the propaganda is intense. And that's the part where it's like heartbreaking again to me, because the pain, we're going to have to go through a lot for people to finally get it, I think. And it's going to suck.
We do have to go through a lot. I'm also thinking, I'm recalling when that guy made a comment about how there's going to be some hard times, but it's all going to be worth it. You know, when you start sugarcoating the BS that you're selling to get people prepared for how bad it's going to get, to keep them in line.
Yeah.
Do I believe some people are going to get it and be like, you know what? No, this is too much. Yes, some will. There will be some that will, it's like Harriet Tubman, some Negroes you just can't save, right? You can't save them.
Yeah.
The people who need to feel it are the people who are the people on the ground.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about eating the rich, but damn it, we are close to it. Because there is a place where people are infatuated. Now, I'm going to say Americans, and I know it's probably in all cultures, like all societies, pardon me, but Americans are infatuated with this whole idea of, as we said, consumerism and greed. There's a reason why the show American Greed existed. Because enough was never enough.
Yeah.
Enough is never enough. And there has to be a place where we say enough is enough. But until I take everything you have, then you will say, okay, enough is now enough. Enough is enough now. So if that means that you got to sit outside your congressman's house and protest, then that's what you do. Somebody going to have to feel the pain with you, right? Somebody going to have to feel it. Yeah. That's where we are, because it's not registering. Now, we've seen some of these town halls where people are like, we didn't vote for this. We didn't vote for this. Well, see, this is about, no, we didn't vote for this. And some of them are going towards Zoom calls where they're blocking out people. Right? So much for free speech, right? Yeah. So do I believe that it needs to get even worse? I hate to say it. Until the pain is unbearable, don't nothing change.
Yeah, it's true. It's really true.
It's an awful thing to say, but it's also reality. Life has to kick you in your throat sometimes for you to recognize that what you're doing, it ain't working.
Yep.
And that you believing that you should put all of your eggs in this rich man's basket, who is a grifter, always on a con. Always.
Which one are you talking about? Which rich man is it? Is it Trump? Musk? Is it President Musk or is it President Trump?
Probably both. Probably both, because well, one's a con artist, the other one is just he's awful. He's a better con than the other con.
Well, I think they're both con artists. I used to way back. I was like all about like Musk is gonna go clean energy, and I bought in, and then I started learning more about what was happening, and I'm like, that's interesting.
People hide in plain sight.
People hide in plain sight.
Like we talk about allyship. People hide in plain sight.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and I've met those people who show up and are like, yes, I'm your friend, I'm your so-and-so. It's like, well, when we're down in the trenches, you better be in there. But then they say things. You know, for me, and I know you and I talked earlier about making friends. For me, when people open their mouths, I listen. Word choice is always the thing for me. What words you choose to use and how you say it. And as a person who has observed behavior as a job, I can't help but look at people and I'm thinking, okay, so that's she's teetering this way, but let me just watch. I need to keep watching. People will always show you who the mark. Just let them keep talking.
Yeah.
Just let them keep talking. They will always tell you exactly who they are. So yeah, but this con with the cryptocurrency, a con. The gold card, another con. Everything is about how can I steal from somebody else and leave them high and dry. That's what he's known for. Multiple bankruptcies. No, and I'm thinking, and you think he's a successful businessman? In what universe? Like, yeah.
He got away with it.
And continues. But you know, that's called privilege, Aicila. That's what that is.
It's privilege.
That's called privilege. Let me turn it over to you, ma'am.
All right. Well, so this is our positive thing, and I am going to read this whole one. I'm going to pull up the thing because it is, I think, helpful. So connect. That is really the thing there. And this is a quote from Humankind, which is, "There's a truth as old as the hills. Our distant ancestors knew the importance of the collective and rarely idolized individuals. They saw themselves as a part of something much bigger, linked to all other animals, plants, and Mother Earth. Is it any wonder then that loneliness can quite literally make us sick? That a lack of human contact is comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day? That having a pet lowers our risk of depression? Human beings crave togetherness and interaction. Our spirits yearn for connection just as our bodies yearn for food. It's that longing more than anything that enabled," he calls us Homo puppy, "to shoot for the moon." And so I just leave you with this. Do what you can and connect. Connect to your neighbors, connect to your friends, connect to yourself. Go out in nature, write in the mornings, read books, turn the propaganda news off. Go get information from fact-based sources, question your assumptions, and recognize that if you have power to do something, well, that's not actually it. You have power to do something for sure. Notice where that power is and do it, because we only get through this together.
You had me choked up, literally. Okay. So my Chinese zodiac sign is a rabbit. And of course, I had a rabbit as a pet. And my second one, because the first one died from a heart attack. But the second one didn't like to be in the cage, and his card from the SPA said, likes to, run free from time to time. And I thought, okay. And he would chew on his door. So I unlocked the door. He jumps out. He's like, and he jumps into bed and lays out. And I'm thinking, why is this rabbit in my bed? Because they're highly sociable animals.
Yeah.
My bunny would literally get into bed, snuggle in my back because they like to, cuddle up. We need each other.
We need each other.
We need the human touch. You need so many hugs a day. You need that, as you say, human interaction, connection. Like, that's what we need. The human experience is only great because it has other good humans in it. Other good humans. Now, I don't know how you define good. That's up to you. Check your heart, though. Check your heart. But it requires it. During times of chaos, a couple of things keep me centered, right? My faith keeps me centered. Nature keeps me centered. As I was telling Aicila, there is this lady at the store, almost popped in the throat. almost went there. I was like, look, lady, it's too early in the morning for this bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And then all I could say was, Gwendolyn, it's been winter here because I'm in North Texas. We've had one day it's 23 degrees, 13 degrees. The next day it's 82. And it's just, all over the place. I need to get back out into nature where I meditate. I sit for a while. I talk to the crows and the squirrels. I feed the squirrels. I need to get back to that because it keeps me grounded. Right. And I can see that I'm losing it. We're going to need more of these kinds of conversations. As you mentioned, the only way to move forward is to truly have civil discourse. We bring these topics up to have civil discourse.
Yep.
If you're coming here with, what's the right word? I don't know what the right word is, Aicila.
Curiosity, interest, being right.
being right. I will go with being right because, I was on the debate team, high school, and then we did a little bit in college. And so you have to research both sides of every argument.
Yeah.
And then you pick the side, right? Do I see some things and say, okay, I can see what they mean? Yeah. So I will use this current deal with Ukraine and Europe giving aid and the US giving aid. Did Europe fall behind in creating their own military strongholds? Yes, they did. They kind of got off. People took their foot off the gas because we're like, hey, we have peace for the most part. So we can kind of, but that doesn't mean that this guy should do what he did still. Like there's ways to do stuff. And that clearly wasn't it. Right. So I get that. But I always come into a conversation with my ears open, looking for a new perspective, because I want to understand why people feel the way they feel. When you're just reciting to me some old BS that somebody told you from way back when, that don't work for me because I need something that's factual.
Yeah.
I need numbers. I need dates, times. I need proof of who was impacted by what. When you tell me the water's fine, but yet there's dead fish on the shore,
I'm not getting in.
I feel like, okay, second movie reference, Purple Rain, right? Purifying yourself in the lake Minnetonka, right? Like, he wouldn't get in that water because that water, first of all, it wasn't the lake, but he wouldn't get in that water. So it's like, yeah, if you wouldn't drink that water, don't tell me the water's fine. The water's just fine. I don't want to hear that. But come to the table prepared to talk about stuff, prepared to listen. Yeah. But at this point, with all of what's going on, and it's going on at a rapid rate to wear you down mentally, and I'm going to also say spiritually. Some people's spirit may be broken at this moment, really.
Yeah.
And some folks are feeling a little bit of despair, like, what's the point in fighting? You never give up on your power. We have power. Everybody has power. The power is in your voice. There are ways to resist. There are ways to show that you have just as much power as anybody else. When people feel hopeless and are like, what's the point? That's a sign to get into some good people. Because you don't ever want to go down there. But they're counting on you feeling powerless and being overwhelmed and not resisting.
Yep.
That's the rapid fire of all the foolishness, all the BS. And when all that's happening, trust, they're stealing money from some other place that we don't even know about yet. That's the MO. That's the playbook. Has been, will always be.
Yep. Unfortunately.
Unfortunately. Aicila, this was great, as always. I mean,
I love our chats. And next time we'll do surveillance culture. We're already ready for it.
Next time we will do surveillance culture. Yeah. because I know for myself, I am actively removing myself from some places, some digital places. How much can I remove? I'm trying to find out, because, there's so much that's out there that we have just been clicking on. Yeah, I accept it. Yeah, I accept it. Yeah, I accept it.
Yep.
And you don't even know what you have signed off on. And those things are written to where you're like, all right, yeah, I'll just accept it.
Mhm.
So
Once
yeah,
again, the pain of it, it's the convenience. I'm a super convenient, like, love it, and I am like so cranky that I'm like, no, I got to go back to being inconvenienced.
Got to be inconvenienced.
Irritating, but that's the only option.
That's the option. There's gonna be a lot of inconveniences pretty soon, because, like, hey,
Yep.
people need to recognize that consumers, us as citizens, we have power. It's time
Yep.
to start using it.
Exactly.
Start using it. Another great one.
Thank you so much, Bea. I appreciate you. I'm ready for our music now. Yeah.
Yes. Well, let me get it up.
I'm gonna dance anyway.
Okay. Not like that. All right, we'll see you guys next time.